Clear out the room, I'm coming through. They wanna see what I'm about. Yeah, I got skills, do it for the thrill. I'm on a paper route. Extra, read about it. I'm today's trending topic.
Wow, what's going on? It's your boy Dolo J, and welcome to this episode of Kickin It Dolo podcast. It's a podcast, man. Basically, this episode, man, we're going to be talking about NBA strictly. I know I bring y'all some football, too. We're going with the playoffs this episode, man. So without further ado, let's get right into it. We're going to talk about a couple series, really all the series, the games that have transpired so far since the last. But the first series we're going to talk about is the Heat versus they're up 3-1 in the series. We're going to start off talking about game two. Game two was really like a get into the end. The Heat just came out and stifled Trae Young, and the Hawks offense really didn't allow them to do what they normally do, which is get out and run and lobs and, just play fast. And a couple stats from game two, we got Jimmy Butler with 45 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. Basically, he was getting to the basket at will, getting to the free throw line at will, made 11 of his 12 free throws, 0 fouls, and 0. That's a good thing, man, to have 45 points with no turnovers and no fouls. Bodan Bogdanovic, he had 29, but, the Hawks definitely, couldn't really do their thing. All right, now we're going on to game three. The Hawks won 111-110 on the game-winning floater with 4.9 seconds left from Trae Young. He had 24 points. Tyler Hero had 24 points. And Kyle Lowry left the game with a hamstring injury. So I really didn't see the play where the injury transpired for Lowry. I know the Heat were up. The Hawks were up by double digits. Then the Heat came back into the lead by double digits. Then the Hawks came back towards the end and, made it a good game and did their thing. Like I said, Trae Young really came on at the end, hitting that logo three. And then, basically down the stretch, keeping them in the game, whether it was a lob, a big basket. Him and Bogdanovic, they really was cooking that game. And now we're going to move on to game four. It was a win by the Heat, 110-86. Another game where, they just held the Hawks to under 100 points. Stifling defense. Gabe Vincent was doing this thing. They still have yet to play Victor Oladipo, but, Jimmy Butler and, the guys they got out there basically been doing their thing. And it got out of hand after the second quarter. Butler with 36 points. He had like 24, I believe. He was scoring, but, they couldn't really do nothing with the Heat, man. Like I said, they up 3-1. Hopefully, gonna see what's going on. Game 5, I want to say game 5 is tomorrow. So we're gonna definitely see what's going on with that. Now we're gonna move on to the Memphis Grizzlies and the Minnesota Timberwolves series. That series is tied at 2 games. Came out to win game 2 after getting punched in the mouth on game 1. Really did his thing, 23 points, 9 rebounds, 10 assists. Responded to the last game very well. Like I said, they got punched in the mouth at home. They came back and, split the series at home. Ant had 20 points. Wasn't really doing this thing. Karl Anthony Towns was, basically doing Karl Anthony Towns things, getting fouls and stuff when he wasn't really supposed to on jump shots and stuff like that. Game 3, the Memphis Grizzlies came out again and with another W. 26 from Desmond Baines, and John Morant had a triple-double with 16 points, 10 rebounds, and 10 assists. They won that game 104-95. Ant had 22 points. They, again, Karl Anthony Towns was doing the same thing again in game 3. But now in game 4, Minnesota actually came out with the win and, tied the series back up 118-119. Cat had 33 points this game. He wasn't really in a lot of foul trouble. You could really see, like, in his mannerisms and how he was just going about himself throughout the game that, he didn't really come to play around, joke around. It was a little thing John Morant posted after game 3, talking about we in Minnesota now. And he was laughing at it. I guess Towns might have seen the tweet or whatever and, took exception to that and was like, all right, well, no more BS. I just got to come out and do my thing. All right, so next series we're going to move on to is the Pelicans and the Suns. New Orleans actually came out with the win in game 2 after Devin Booker got injured in the fourth quarter, but he had 31 points in the first half, if I'm not mistaken. So the Pelicans came out with a 125-114 victory. Ingram had 37 points, 11 rebounds, 9 assists, and just basically took over the fourth quarter. I think he had 19 in the fourth quarter, if I'm not mistaken. And he injured his ankle in the third quarter. He was hobbled a little bit, but he still came out and did his thing. CP3 wasn't really, CP3 and Ayton, he was having a hard time with Valanciunas. All right, we're going to go to game 3. The Suns actually came back, game 114-111. Ayton had 28 points and 17 rebounds. Chris Paul had 28 points and 14 assists. So both of them basically was eating. I think a lot of Chris Paul just came to Ayton anyway, but Ayton, he was just more aggressive that game. CJ had 30 and Brandon Ingram had 34. All right, so game 4 came back out with a nice win to even up the series at 2. In the 103 victory, 30 points from Ingram and 23 from DeAndre Ayton. Just really just wanted this game, man. This is one of the games, especially in the fourth quarter, that was getting in Chris Paul's head. Valanciunas was also still doing his thing the whole game. He had a playoff career high, like 25, maybe 26 points. He definitely was doing his thing. He was catching on the block, be very aggressive. He hit a three, but he's not really a shooter, but really doing his thing. He was really doing his thing. So, all right. So now we're going to go in the net series. The nerve to be up 3-0 in the series. And everybody was expecting Ben Simmons to come back. Now I think I read something where Ben Simmons is not going to play in game 4. I don't know what the reason is, but he's also still trying to get his $20 million back from the Sixers. I'm not really going to speak about him trying to get his money back. A lot of people say he shouldn't have gotten his money because he didn't play. I don't know what the situation is, so therefore I'm not going to, really too much touch on that. I feel like if he is healthy, though, he should go ahead and get out there because this is what you're getting paid to do. But at the same time, like if this is really a passion of yours and really something that you want to do, why not get out there with your boy, especially if you just came from a situation where you didn't want to be in and now you're in a situation where you feel like he knows. We'll see. I think game 4 is tonight, so we'll definitely see how that goes. Game 2, the Celtics came out and win 114-107, 23 from Jaylen Brown, and the Celtics had 7 of their 8 players in double figures. KD had 27 points, but he went 0 for 10 in the second half, and Kyrie only had 10 points. That game, it was kind of how one was a little bit. Basically, with the Nets being up big towards the end of the game, like within the last 4 or 5 minutes of the game, and the Celtics just storming back and doing their thing. They're really doing it. The Celtics are really doing a number defensively on Kevin Durant. Like nobody has ever seen Kevin Durant like this, and we don't know if it's just like a mental thing. Also, the person, like he said one thing, like he was like, "What's different about him?" He was like the personnel. Basically, like the Celtics have the right type of team structure to do what they need to do defensively, being the top defensive team in the NBA this season, especially during the second half after January 1st is when they really, really turned on and, start doing anything. They actually was the top team in the East for like a good week or two. Yeah, they're really just stifling KD, man. And also they did it in the third game as well when it 109-103. Tatum had 39 this game with 6 assists. Bruce Brown still been doing this thing, but it's just the Celtics defense, man. Jason Tatum had 6 steals, man. Steals. And, Jaylen Brown also came on towards the end to, seal the deal. So the next series we're going to go on to is the Toronto Raptors versus the Philadelphia 76ers. That series right now is 3-1. We're going to talk about game 2. So in game 2, just another easy win for the 76ers, 112-97. And B had 31 points and OG Anunoby had 26. I really thought this was going to be a sweep. No team has been swept yet in the first round. I really thought, like with game 4, I really thought that this was going to be a sweep. 76ers with another, especially, how game 3 went. There was another 76ers win, 104-101. The crazy thing about that was the 76ers never led like during regulation. That was the first time I think they led was in overtime. And B with the game winning 3, basically from the wing after that timeout, Doc Rivers. A lot of people say Doc Rivers shouldn't have got that timeout because of where he was actually stepping on the court during the field of not the field of play, but actually stepping on the court while play was going on. Supposed to win that game, you could say they got bailed out, but had a double-digit lead at halftime, so they shouldn't even really let the boys get back in. But they came out with a win in game 4, 110-102. Jordan Embiid was having thumb pain. Didn't really, effective in game 4 from me watching the highlights and stuff like that. He wasn't really in the game for the majority of the time. I thought he wasn't going to play actually in game 4, just trying to come back and, trying to put them boys out in game 5. But Siakam had 34 points and 5 assists, and Harden had 22 points. But it was just a Toronto win. The boys decided that they did not want to get swept. All right, so the very next series we're going to talk about is the Bucks versus the Bulls. The Bucks are up 3-1 in that series, but we're going to talk about game 2 right now. So Chicago won that game, 114-110 is their only win actually in the entire series. Giannis had 33, but DeRozan, he just did his thing down the stretch, getting to the basket, mid-range. Interesting thing I heard during the podcast saying that he modeled his game after George Gervin. George Gervin was a very good, not even a very good, an excellent mid-range shooter. Like, if you know history, then you know George Gervin and him is like Stephen Curry with the 3-ball, basically. Like, mid-range was just cash money. All right, so now the Bucks won game 3 in a blowout by 30. 111-81. They had 22 points from Grayson Allen. Giannis only had like 18, 19 points, but it just dominated them boys. Vucevic had 19 points. And then game 4, another Bucks victory, 119-95, 32 points from Giannis, 24 from Grayson Allen. No, 27 from Grayson Allen, excuse me. And 24 from Zach LaVine. Another blowout, basically. I think DeRozan only shot like 9 shots that game. He wasn't really stifled, man. Like, it's just like they couldn't get nothing going. I don't see how that. I kind of do expect them to get one more game, though, before the series ends. I do expect to get one more game, but I'm pretty sure the Bucks are gonna close it out with game 6. All right, so the next series we're gonna go on to is the Warriors and the Nuggets. We're gonna talk about game 2. So with game 2 was a 126-106 victory by the Warriors, 34 from Curry off the bench and 26 from Jokic. The boys has really been doing their thing, especially with their new depth lineup that they have. The old depth lineup used to contain of Curry, Draymond Green, Andre Iguodala, Klay Thompson, and Kevin Durant. That's their old depth lineup. But now they done found a new depth lineup with Curry, Jordan Poole, Klay Thompson, Andrew Wiggins, and Draymond Green running the 5. Um, they've basically, they've been outscoring the Nuggets. They've been doing good with the depth lineup, but the Nuggets have been out rebounding them when that lineup is on the court. I don't really know the exact stats, but I think they're out rebounding them probably by like a good 10, 15 rebounds. So even though, the depth lineup is good for scoring, we got to see if they can find a lineup where they can get some rebounding as well. Game 3 of the victory by the Warriors, 118-113. Jokic had 37, but basically, with Poole with 27, Curry with 27, and Klay with 26, you're not getting no victory if only one player, really scores like 37. Now, if somebody else would have came with a 35 and then you had somebody with a 25, then, you probably would have been able to stay in the game, but it's real easy. And then I was watching, I want to say it was First Things First, and Antoine Walker, former NBA player, I think he's actually an NBA champion too with the Miami Heat. He was saying basically like they were talking about the lineup, and he was saying like the Nuggets are undermanned, so you can basically try stuff on them. And I kind of felt that way. I kind of, agree with them, but at the same time, I can also see also can be a good lineup. But series to series, do I see that lineup working on every team they play? No, because it's some teams that can actually, that has a lineup that can actually rebound well and also score with you. So with that being said, we'll see how that lineup goes if they, try it in the next round if they move on. But the game 4, Nuggets came out with a victory, 129-121. Jokic had another 37-point performance. Curry had 33 points. But, Jokic after the game basically said, we didn't deserve to be swept. Now, do they deserve to win the series? Probably. People probably don't expect them to win the series. But at the same time, the boys came out with some pride and said, no, we're not going to be swept. You're not going to sweep us. We're going to at least get a game off of you, and that's a good thing. You always want to come out there with some pride, and you just don't want to just give up 4 games in a row. You got to at least get one. So they came out on their home court and did their thing. So the next series we're going to move on to Dallas Mavericks versus the Utah Jazz. All right, so in game 2, Dallas came out with a victory to tie the series, 110-104. Brunson had 41 points, playoff career high for him. And the Mavericks, man, 22 uncontested threes, making 17 of them. Shook this game, man. Like, Maxi Kleber hit 8 threes. He had like 26 points, I believe. Game 3, Dallas came out with another victory, 126-118. Brunson, another 31 points. D. Mitch, threes that game. Excuse me, not 8, 9 threes. They didn't even hit double-digit threes. So, being said, move on to game 4. Another Jazz victory to tie the series at 2. 100-99. Clarkson had 25 points. Luka Doncic returned from his hamstring injury. Well, they say it was hamstring, but they called it a calf. I don't really know the difference between that, but Luka had 30 points in his return. But the Jazz, the Mavericks definitely could have won the game. I could definitely see this series being 3-1, but towards the end, with about 11 seconds left, the Jazz came down off a miss. Dwight Powell missed 2 clutch free throws, man. If he just either hits one free throw, this game is going in overtime. But he missed both free throws. He came down. The Jazz came down, Donovan with the ball in D. Mitch's hands. Gobert lob, game winner. Spencer Dinwiddie couldn't hit the game-winning shot. He probably should have still tried and got to the basket instead of shooting a 3, but they did come. But they definitely could have won that game. I could see either team winning that game, but the Jazz just ended up pulling pulling it out. So, all right. So, something new that I'm doing, that I'm going to try and do during the NBA portion of the playoffs, is give y'all my player of the week. And the player of the week, in my opinion, is Jason Tatum of the Boston Celtics. Yeah, he only had in one game, but it's just his defense and how he's been playing basically throughout the series, him and Jaylen Brown. And then you can also make a case for Jimmy Butler as player of the week too, especially with how the Heat's been doing, especially with his success. Butler, I think, scored 20 points in almost every game except the game they lost. So you could also go Jimmy Butler too, but I'm going to go Jason Tatum of the Boston Celtics. Little episode, just a strictly NBA episode, just recapping the playoffs, man. Next week, I'll be bringing y'all the NFL draft, man, and, we'll be going over the top 10 picks and the trade ups and stuff like that. And we'll also be having more playoff games. Y'all stay tuned, man. It's Dolo J, man, signing off. Appreciate you.
So, clear out the room, I'm coming through. They wanna see what I'm about. Yeah, I got skills, do it for the thrill. I'm on a paper route. Extra, read about it. I'm today's trending topic.